Marshfield Dreams, When I Was a Kid, a memoir by Ralph Fletcher. Marshfield, page 3. There's a town called Marshfield in the state of Vermont. You can also find a Marshfield in Maine, one in Missouri, and one in Wisconsin. I grew up in Marshfield, Massachusetts. The curly part of Massachusetts that sticks out into the ocean is Cape Cod. Marshfield sits on the ocean just above that curl. I lived on Acorn Street in a regular house bordered by forests on two sides. Dad owned 7 acres of woods in back. Across the dirt driveway we had Ailes Woods, a forest of pine trees. The pine trees dropped millions of needles, which gave the forest floor a nice, springy feel. Those trees were great for climbing. If I crawled out too far on a limb and fell, the soft needles cushioned my fall, so I never got hurt. The woods held magical things. We found snakeskins, real Indian arrowheads, box turtles, beehives, snakes spit on tall grass. We dug up the buried trash from people who lived there many years before. We saw gravestones so old we could no longer read the names carved in them. We found all kinds of mushrooms. Some were edible and others were poisonous toadstools. Mom said to think of them as strangers. Some are good, some are bad. And since she couldn't tell the difference, it was best to leave them all alone. One morning in the woods, I stepped into a fairy ring of mushrooms, a big circle 10 feet across. There was a tiny stream in our backyard, small enough so you could step from one bank to the other. This stream flowed under the dirt driveway and formed a swamp at the edge of Ailes Woods. I loved the dark, dank smell of that swamp and all the things that lived there. Mossy logs, goggle-eyed frog, bloodsuckers and eels, and foul-smelling skunk cabbage. Half the swamp was underwater and the other half contained thick, dense mud. It was impossible to walk through that muck without getting stuck. More than once I tried and left behind one of my sneakers. A lost soul sunk forever at the bottom of the swamp. I got in trouble for that, but today I'm glad to know that something of mine was left behind in Marshfield. Here is my story. Junior, page 7. As the oldest of 9, I was named after my father and my grandfather. Some kids on Acorn Street teased me, calling, "Hey, Junior!" Not that I minded. I liked having the same name as my father, but it did cause confusion in the house. Whenever Mom would call out, "Ralph," Dad and I would both answer, "Yeah?" "No, Big Ralph," or "Little Ralph," she yelled back, to clarify things. I guess that would have annoyed some people, but it didn't really bother me. Dad was tall and handsome, and I bragged to my friends that my father was so cool. He had 3 jobs: teacher, milkman, bartender. I was proud of him. I loved him. And I loved knowing that Ralph could fit us both in one snug syllable. Statue, age 3, page 9. By the time I was 3, I already had a brother, Jimmy, who was a year younger than me. My sister Elaine was a year younger than Jim. Dad worked as a traveling book salesman, and Mom took care of us when Dad was away. Dad came home on Friday nights. On Saturdays, after breakfast, the whole family would play outside. As soon as I saw Mom and Dad coming out of the door, I'd get excited and run to the big boulder in the front yard. We were about to play my favorite game, statue. I arranged my body in a certain pose and froze. Then I closed my eyes, waiting. My heart beat faster as they came closer. "What's this?" Dad asked. "It looks like a statue," Mom said. She had Jimmy and Laney in the stroller and pushed them closer. "A statue of a little boy," Dad exclaimed. "It's beautiful. It's absolutely perfect. Amazing." Mom knelt to touch my nose. I could feel the eyes of my whole family studying me closely. Jimmy laughed. The baby just stared. "A little boy carved in stone," Mom explained. "You think we could buy it?" "Hey, look," Dad said. "There's a price tag right here on the sleeve." I remained absolutely still, barely breathing while Dad examined the invisible tag. "How much?" Mom asked impatiently. "How much is it?" "It's a lot." $100, Dad told her. "But who cares? It's worth every penny. I'd pay $500 for a statue like this. I'd pay 1,000. I tried hard not to smile. "Excuse me, madame," Dad said to baby Laney. "Is this your store? My wife and I would like to buy the statue here. $100. "Certainly. Here you go. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. "What? Ship it?" No, thank you. We'll just put it in our car and drive it home." He handed Laney to Mom and picked me up. With me in his lap, stiff as a board, he sat on the boulder. Mom sat beside him. Dad pretended to turn on the car ignition. "Drive carefully," Mom said. "We don't want the statue to get damaged." "Don't worry," Dad replied. While turning the steering wheel, he pretended to park the car. Here we are. Where should we put the statue? Mom asked. I've got the perfect place for it, he said, right here in our front yard. How wonderful, Mom exclaimed. We've got 2 boys, but I've always wanted another. Look at the detail on the face. Dad bent down to examine me closely. It almost looks alive. That was my cue. Slowly, I lifted my chin and looked up, first at my father and then my mother. My goodness, they shouted. He's alive! Hugs, kisses. It's a real boy, Dad exclaimed. Would you like to live with us? Shyly, I nodded. With more hugs and kisses, they welcomed me into the family. It's a miracle, Dad kept saying. An absolute miracle. Kids, age 5. Page 13. Mom had a baby every year. Me, Jimmy, Laney, Tommy, boom, 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 boom. Babies needed baby food, formula, diapers, medicines. Babies were expensive, and Mom was always looking for ways to save money. We never went to the barber shop. Instead, Mom cut the boys' hair with electric clippers, shaving our heads on the back porch and sweeping the hair into the bushes afterward. The birds will gather your hair and use it to make their nest nice and warm, she said. Mom gave me a wiffle haircut so short I could see my scalp when I looked in the mirror. The haircut was perfect for hot summer days, but it didn't hide the place in front where my hair jutted straight up as if being blown that way by invisible wind. No matter what I tried, water, spit, Vaseline, the hair insisted on doing exactly what it wanted. Jimmy had a cowlick even worse than mine. Half the hair went straight up, the other half straight down, like a riptide. With Jimmy's cowlick plus the fact that he wore glasses, I thought he looked even goofier than me. Laney had reddish hair that Mom cut with a pair of scissors. Laney didn't like bugs. Once, a small ant crawled on her and she started screaming. It took Mom a long time to calm her down. And after that, Jimmy nicknamed her the Screech Owl. I mostly played with Jimmy. We were close but different. Even as a baby, he would do stuff that I never dream of doing. One time, Mom put him in a stroller and took us out for a walk. A lady came by and bent down to look at him. Aren't you the most adorable thing? She cooed. Jimmy smiled and cooed back, but as soon as the lady turned around, Jimmy stuck out his tongue at her. Mom wanted us to be good, and I was good. I knew what the rules were and followed them, and as the oldest, I tried to get the other kids to follow them too. But Jimmy wouldn't listen. Rules were for other people, not for him. One night, Dad and Mom got a babysitter, a high school girl more interesting in talking on the telephone than taking care of us. She sent us to bed early without a snack. Mom had just bought new bedspreads that had little string fringes. Jimmy began to unravel the strings. You better not do that, I warned. But once Jimmy got started, there was no stopping him. He pulled all the strings out. Then he set up a system of lines and pulleys between my top bunk bed and his bed on the bottom. Laney let him wrap a string around one of her dolls. When I pulled the string, the doll started rising slowly up to my bunk. We laughed, watching it go higher and higher. Suddenly its eyes popped open like it was scared stiff, and we began shrieking with such laughter that the babysitter ran upstairs to see what was going on. Next day, when Mom found that we had pulled all the strings out of the new bedspreads, she burst into tears. That night she sent us to bed right after supper, in the middle of summer. I thought it was the worst punishment any kid have ever had. Not the least bit tired, I laid in bed for hours as the room slowly changed from day to night, listening to my friends outside on Acorn Street playing a wild game of kick the can without me.